Hey everybody, how's it going? Uh, Sorry, just I'll put this down. Um, this is my second live stream of the day. I just want to, I gave you the Matrix spoiler talk, the Matrix Resurrection spoiler talk. But I want to discuss this real quick. Hey everybody, how's it going? Sorry, I gotta make sure YouTube has it. So James Franco spoke out. Finally, broke his silence after all these months being accused allegedly sexually assaulting women. It's not just sexual harassment. He was accused of sexually assaulting women, and we can get to the details here on Wikipedia in a minute. But he finally broke his silence. Remember, the last time we discussed this, it was Seth Rogen who announced that he will never work with James Franco again. And as you know, prior to that, Seth Rogen and James Franco were best friends, and they even made a movie together, Pineapple Express. I'm sorry, also The Interview, that North Korean comedy movie, um, which was shitty, by the way. So the only publicity that movie got was the fact that North Korea hacked them, and leaked the movie all over the world. They hacked Sony. Well, anyway, I don't want to get into that. Um, so Seth Rogen said, "You know what? I will never work with James Franco again." So that was the big news last time, and so we haven't heard anything or update till now. And James Franco has broken his silence. He spoke to SiriusXM's Jess Cagle podcast, and I'll give you the clip here. This is a 5 minute clip, but let me just give you the excerpts. Um, Via Just Jarrett. Well, in 2008, there were some complaints about me and an article about me, and at that moment, I just thought I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna pause. Did not seem like the right time to say anything. There were people that were upset with me, and I need to listen. There's a writer, Damon Young, and he talked about when something like this happens, like the natural human instinct is just to make it stop. You want to get out in front of it, and whatever you have to do to apologize, get it done. But what that doesn't do is allow you to do the work to and allow to look at what was underneath. What the heck? What does that mean? Like whatever you did, even if it was a gaffe or say you said something wrong or whatever, there's probably an iceberg underneath that or behavior or patterning of just being blind to yourself, and this is not gonna be solved overnight. So I've just been doing a lot of work, and I guess I'm pretty confident in saying like 4 years, and I was in recovery before, for substance abuse, and there were some issues that I had to deal with that were also related to addiction. And so I've really used my recovery background to kind of start examining this and changing who I was. Um, let's just skip this part. Okay, here you go. James said, because Jace Cagle says when the lawsuit was filed, the plaintiff's attorney said this is their assessment of what happened. He was looking to create a pipeline that James Franco was looking to create a pipeline of young women who would be subjected to his personal and professional sexual exploitation in the name of education. James responded, "Look, I'll admit I did sleep with students. I didn't sleep with anybody in that particular class, but over the course of my teaching, I did sleep with students, and that was wrong. But like I said, it's not why I started the school, and I didn't. I wasn't the perfect that selected the people to be in that class, so it wasn't a master plan on my part. But yes, there were certain instances where what I was in a consensual thing with a student, and I should not have been." Um, James also spoke about being sex addict in recovery since 2016. All right. So if you want to know what he did or what he allegedly did, in 2018, he was. There you go. 5 women were accusing Franco of inappropriate or sexually exploitative behavior during the period when Franco was serving as their acting teacher or mentor. One former student stated that Franco would always make everybody think there were possible roles on the table if I were to perform sexual acts or take our shirts off in his projects. Another alleged that Franco held a sex scene class and removed students' vaginal guards while simulating oral sex with them. Franco's attorney disputed the women's allegations. Busy Phillips is an actress, by the way, In her memoir, she said that Franco screamed at her before violently shoving her to the ground while on the set of Freaks and Geeks. In 2019, two former students filed a lawsuit against Franco and his partners. The complaint is that alleging that the program was little more than a scheme to provide him and his male collaborators with a pool of young female performers that they could take advantage of. The case claimed that students, were subjected to sexually exploitative auditions and film shoots, and had to sign away their rights to their recordings. Um, so in 2021, both students agreed to drop their individual claims. Apparently, they reached a settlement. Franco would pay more than $2.2 million to resolve two different legal disputes, one by the two women who cited sexual exploitation, and another class action plaint by approximately 1,500 Studio 4 students who maintained that they were defrauded. Hmm. In April 2021, actor Charlene Yee, who worked with Franco in The Disaster Artist, claimed that they tried to quit the film, The Disaster Artist, over the allegations, though they said the filmmakers offered them a bigger role when they tried to leave the movie, and Yee viewed this enticement as attempted bribe. Yee also accused Seth Rogen, one of Franco's longtime co-stars, of being an enabler of Franco. Now, we gotta remember when it comes to talking about things like this, um, allege or allegations are the big words that need to be stated, right? We're not lawyers. You and I are not lawyers. You and I are not judges. Um, so these are still alleged, um, and those actual judges, lawyers, they decide, whether or not this thing is more than just alleged. But for you and I, for the sake of us, we have to keep referring this to alleged or alleged allegations. Um, it's always innocent till proven guilty, sort of deal. But I want to show you the clip here. So this is James Franco basically saying that he had sex addiction. Um, and you know what? A lot of people have sex addiction. That's part of the problems of our society. We have alcoholism. We have what was that, theft addiction? I forgot what the term is. So I'm not judging people who have addictions. I have my own addictions. I I I can't stop eating. I love eating. I guess that's what we call it, addiction. And I gain weight like crazy, especially during the pandemic. But so there's nothing wrong with trying to get help for your addictions, right? This is not a put down on people who have sex addiction. If you have sex addiction and you're seeking help, good, more power to you. All right. What I have a problem with is saying that, oh yeah, I did those things to those students, you know, exploit them and force them to do shit because of my sex addiction. It wasn't me. I don't want to take responsibility. It was my addiction. It kicked in, and you and I can agree. You and I can disagree whether that argument holds, but I have a problem with that. I have a problem with, like, instead of owning it, instead of apologizing for it, they're like, hey, that was the alcohol talking. Oh, that was my sex addiction talking. So sex addiction kicking in. So maybe you disagree with me, and we can play this clip right now and see what you think of it. So he's basically, let me give you the context. He's basically telling you how he got to having this sex addiction, and part of it was because of fame and attention and popularity, and it sounds like he wasn't able to handle that. So when the fame kicks in, when he became famous, it only gives him bigger head, like his head swells, and like, you're like, oh my, women throw themselves at me, and that is true. That's part of what comes with fame. um but you gotta, it's not an excuse to not keep it in your pants. It's like, oh my god, women throw themselves at me. I'm famous now. All right, that means I can screw anybody. Anything, I can screw anything that moves now. Yeah. So anyway,
That felt great. And it
yeah,
was got in a lot of trouble. And so that I was on a television show.
freaks and geeks.
And that felt great. And it was like this new thing and a new source of, to fill me up. Like when I was young, it was like I was just shy. I just didn't know how to get along in the world. I didn't know how to talk to people. And alcohol was like the best solution for that. The problem is for me, normally you have a window. It's like, it's fun, they say, and then fun with problems and then just problems. Like my window from fun to just problems was so short. And I was a ward of the court and all this stuff. But um, once couldn't use alcohol to sort of fill that hole, it was like, oh, success, attention, this is great. And so in a weird way, I got addicted to validation, I guess, or success or whatever that is. And then there was another thing that happened where along the road, of trying to get success and, climb the top of that mountain, attention from women, success with women also became a huge source of validation for me. The problem with that is, like, I'm sure you can guess, like any sort of drug or anything, like, there's never enough. It's sort of always I talk about like this if-then sort of scenario where I thought, if I get this, then I'll be happy. And then I got there, and then it was like, well, okay, well, if I get that, then I'll be happy. And it was never ending. And it was,
Okay, let's pause that. It sounds he's sincere, right? I don't want to take that away from him. Credit where credit is due. It sounds like he's sincere about making it sound like he had a hole, this void that he needs to fill. And you know, it's a common theme in a lot of addicts. I'm not taking that away from them as well. A lot of people have like, you know what? There's this thing that I need to fill, and then that thing happens to be alcohol. That thing happens to be food. That thing happens to be sex. Um, so it sounds like he's sincere here. It still doesn't justify what he did to those students allegedly. It still doesn't justify him putting his students, because guys, because James Franco was a teacher. I don't know if you know that. I'm sorry if I didn't give you that context. I apologize. He was a teacher at this university or college, and he was teaching acting, and so there's this power dynamics, right? Just like a boss and their employees, there's power dynamics there. You can't cross that line. You can't cross that. If it's one thing if it's even if it's between coworkers. I remember when I was working in an office setting, and my coworker uh, started dating his other coworker, and they had to report to the HR. They had to report that, yeah, we're dating, but it's not going to affect our relationship. Professional relationship. It's not going to be affect the office, or it's not going to affect the working condition, stuff like that. They have to report to HR. Even that, I mean, but still, a boss and their employees, teacher and their student, that's a whole different dynamic. There's power there. There's The boss holds power over their subordinate. The teachers hold powers, like they could affect the students' grade. They could affect the students passing or not. So that's why it's problematic, because of that power dynamic that exists between somebody who holds leverage over the other person. Um, that's what makes it problematic. That's what makes what James Franco allegedly did problematic.
it's also sadly the same thing with people. It's, oh, if I'm with that, like, this is all subconscious, but like if I'm with that person, I'll be happy. And then it's not enough. I'm just trying to fill that hole and it never gets filled. So around the same time I hit the wall with work, my My sister-in-law, Iris Torres, had given me a book on sex and love addiction, and I'd been in recovery for a long time, right? But I got sober really young, so like I could identify with a lot in the alcohol literature, but like when I read this book, it was like it hit me like a bullet, and it was like, oh
All
my
right, let's
god.
just fast forward this.
The
I think,
insidious part of that
yeah.
is that I stayed sober from alcohol all that time. I could never be faithful to anybody, so I cheated on everyone before Isabel. And he's like, look, the cheating is dishonest. I don't think that's good for your sobriety. But if you're not dating someone and you want to go and hook up, like whatever happens between two consenting adults is fine. Like that's what he said. The problem was I took that and I ran with it and used it as an excuse to, just hook up all over the place. And it was like, well, we're being honest here, right? And like you said, like completely blind to power dynamics or anything like that, but also completely blind to people's
Yep. You mentioned power dynamics.
feelings. I didn't want to hurt people. And in fact, I wasn't like really a one night stand guy. Like people that I, got together with or dated, like I'd see them for a long time, years. It's just that I couldn't be present for any of them. And the behavior spun out to a point where it was like I was hurting everybody.
Let's see here. So, you can watch the rest on that clip. Um, Final thoughts. Um, if and hopefully, if James Franco is sincere, apologetic, for his alleged misconduct, that's fine. That's fine. I think we as a society needs to believe in second chances. If we don't believe in second chances, then who are we? Unless there's always a line, right? I mean, he's not James Franco is not Jeffrey Epstein. James Franco is not all these other bad guys. So you gotta you gotta differentiate one from the other. You can't put them all in the same box. Um, and if he is sincere about apologizing and making amends and actually as he did, paying the settlements to those students. Um, I, for one, said, don't put him in a doghouse forever. Right now, Hollywood is putting him in a doghouse. He's not, doing gigs. He's not acting in movies. Um, so the severity of the allegations also take into account. Like, for example, Chris Noth. Right now, Hollywood is putting him in a doghouse, understandably so, justifiably so, because man, if you read some of the testimonies from the accusers, woo, it's miles more severe than what James Franco did to those students. I'm not minimizing James Franco's alleged misconduct against those students, but Chris Noth was like, you know, so you can't put them all in the same box. I think they're if this is if this is part of James Franco's apology tour, I would say it's not a bad start. Although I don't know how many people actually tuned into this Sirius XM. Oh, they got millions of subscribers, so a lot of people will be watching this. But yeah, it's a good start. Um, Whether or not this is gonna regain the trust of Seth Rogen and many of his fellow actors, Bussy Phillips, Charlie Nee, that remains to be seen. Um, I don't know what their requirements are for James Franco to be let out of the doghouse, um, but it's not a bad start. I think like I said earlier, the problem I have, like, if James Franco is saying, "Oh, this thing that I did with the students, that's because of my sex addiction." I get it. You have sex addiction, but still own up, dude. Own up. Just own up. Not everything can be blamed on. Oh, it's the alcohol talking, or it's the penis, talking, or the penis can't talk. It's like, oh, I can't help it. The penis gotta do what the penis gotta do. Like, no, it's just like, yeah, that was me. That was me. I own up, and I'm sorry. I respect people who are, who can do that more than people who make sex addicts look awful. Like I said earlier, addiction is a problem. If you are looking for help, seeking help for that addiction, whether it be alcohol, food, game, or sex addiction, more power to you. All right. But James, don't be like poo pooing those guys by blaming the addiction on your misconduct, or blaming the misconduct on your addiction. Own up, man. Just own up. Um, Before I go, um, let's see here. Vanesh Rama, I don't know how women in Hollywood film agree to do sex scenes. For him, women seem like a use and throw. It is said our society has sex obsessed people. Yeah, it's something that I don't, like I said, I don't want to judge. Some people have um urges within them. Like I said, my urges is within my urges within me are towards food. Like, I gained incredible weight these past few years, and I can't stop eating. So, every all of us have addictions. All of us have weaknesses. None of us are perfect. All right. So, sex obsessed people or sex addicts, that's the thing that they're struggling with, inside. And if they're seeking help, like I said, that's good. You're seeking help. You're making the effort. We got to encourage that. That's more power to them. Um, well, as far as why women agree to do sex scenes in Hollywood, well, that's an answer that I can't provide, because it's a tale as old as time, and and you can't blame Hollywood alone. Even any cinema in any parts of the world have sex scenes, so it's part of the nature of the business. But it's not the topic at hand right now. Um, but yeah, you're entitled to your opinion. Some people get mad because of pride and power. In the case of James Franco, it's more power. Like I said, power dynamics, teacher and student. Um, Fame. He thinks he can, like, oh my God, women are throwing themselves at me. I can get away with this. That kind of mentality. So power is more of what James Franco was sort of struggling with, if you will. Fame, power, popularity. Oh my God, I have power over you, the students. So, but yeah, back to circling back again. Um, is this enough for Hollywood to let him back in? I don't know. This is just one interview. He finally broke his silence after so many months of not saying anything. So we'll see where it goes from here. Whether or not Hollywood will take him back in, whether or not Seth Rogen will work with him again. That's all those stuff are still up in the air. But just want to give you this update anyway. Let me know your thoughts about this latest news from James Franco, him breaking his silence. What are your thoughts about his overall allegations? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Let's rock this.